Hello. Today we're in the Peak District in Derbyshire and we're going to the gorgeous Chatsworth House and Gardens, and this is what's known as one of the treasure houses of England. Here we go. I think we're on the main approach now towards the house. On the field in front of us to the right you can see there's a herd of deer. And then the house is coming to view through those trees on the right. Then we'll be going over this bridge, which I think was by James Payne, who did some of the work on the estate as well. I think he did the stable blocks as well. So yeah, over this classical bridge. Here we go. So I've just arrived and parked up. I believe this is the north side of the house. The house and gardens don't actually open for about another 45 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a look at a few things around the parkland while we're out here. Up the top there, that's the stable block. So not far from the car park actually is this feature, which is a game larder, and this would have been used for hanging pheasants and stuff like that after people had been hunting in the park. And this was completed in around 1909. And you can still see the hooks up here where they used to hang the game after they'd been caught. And the mesh on the windows that you can see, that was so that air could get in, but it'd keep larger insects and other wildlife out. Now I've just got my old zoom camcorder out because at the top of that tree line up there there's an old hunting tower, and I'm going to try and go up there later, but just while we're here I'll try and zoom in a bit for you. So there's the old hunting tower up on the top of a hill. Like I say, I'll probably try and pop up there later and see a bit more of it. Now you know you're at an important estate when you see the likes of this. Look at the colour and the patterns of the stone and the gates. Now I'm just going to go down into the parkland a bit further and see what I can find. Just stop here for a quick look. And I think that's the west front of the house over there. Now this is an interesting feature. And this thing is called Queen Mary's Bower. The story goes that this was built in around the 1570s, in around the time that Mary Queen of Scots was held prisoner here. And apparently it was built as a raised platform somewhere for her to get a bit of exercise and stuff. However, a more likely story is that it was built as a garden feature when this part of the park actually had a lot of water features before the garden was remodelled centuries later. And if you look at the ground, you can probably see that water probably would have run under this bridge and would have probably been in this bowl and stuff, if you can see down here. So that probably would have been a really nice feature before the gardens were remodelled later on. Now I think the door at the top is actually locked, but I'll have a walk up there anyway. We might be able to see through the door or whatever. And it looks like this would have been a place just to get a good view across the park and stuff. There we go. It's a bit unkempt in there, as you can see. But yeah, there would have been good views off there, I suppose. Little niche here. Probably would have had some sort of statuary or something in there at one point. Here's the view from the other side. And this is the bridge built by James Payn between around 1759 and 1764. Obviously in a classical style. And running under the bridge is the River Derwent that runs through the estate. And again we've got niches here where there probably would have been statues and stuff. This is the top of the bridge. This is the bridge that we drove over on the way to the car park earlier. there's a nice view from the top of the bridge. It's lovely to have some statues still in place on this side of the bridge. So, Chatsworth stands on the east bank of the River Derwent in Derbyshire, and this is Grade 1 listed, and it's been chosen several times as Britain's favourite country house. And this has been the home of the Cavendish family since the mid-1500s. An original Tudor mansion here was built in the 1560s by Bess of Hardwick and her husband Sir William Cavendish. In 1696, the south and east fronts were rebuilt to the designs of William Talman in a Baroque style, and that was for the first Duke of Devonshire. And if you remember watching my Durham Park video, you might remember that William Talman was responsible for the design of that house as well. And these changes were inspired by a visit to the Palace of Versailles by the first Duke. The house was further altered in the 18th and 19th centuries, notably by Geoffrey Wyatville, and I think that was the north and west sides mostly. This is the stable block, completed in 1766 and designed by James Payne, and this was for the 4th Duke of Devonshire. And this is quite a statement for a stable block. Now there's cafes and shops and stuff in here. Obviously this would have been to keep the horses and stuff originally, and various workshops. There's a clock tower up there at the top of the entrance. Right, let's go inside. I will be going in the house shortly, so hopefully we'll be able to have a look in there. But before that, I'm just going to have a look at another couple of garden buildings and stuff. This building here adjoining the side of the house, that used to be an orangery, but that's used as a shop now. If we go down here, this is a temple called Flora's Temple, and this was built in 1695 by the first Duke as a bowling greenhouse. And obviously this is in the style of a classical temple. And there's the statue of Flora in the middle. And as you probably know, Flora was the classical goddess of flowers, so it's quite fitting that she's here in the gardens. Next to Flora's temple, running along a wall at the side of the gardens, this is called the conservative wall, basically because it's a building that conserves heat so that various fruits and stuff can be grown. And as you can see, that runs very far up that wall. Now originally, things being grown against this wall were only protected by canvas curtains, but in 1848 Joseph Paxton, who was famous for the Crystal Palace for the Great Exhibition of 1851, he came along and covered it with a wood and glass frame, as you can see now. And this is actually over 100 metres long. This is another one of Paxton's glasshouses, and according to the signage board down there, this dates to around 1834. Now this one here is relatively modern, and this was designed by someone called George Pearce in 1970, and it actually has no internal supports. As you can see, they're all on the outside, and this is called the display greenhouse. And apparently there's 3 different zones with different temperatures for growing different plants. Right, I think next we're going to go in the house, and then later on I'm going to check out all the other good stuff in the garden. Here we are on the way into the house. Here we go. So this is the painted hall, and the paintings on the upper half and the roof are by Louis Laguerre, and they depict scenes from the life of Julius Caesar. Apparently this large foot is a fragment of an ancient Greek really large statue. This is Portrait of a Young Man by Titian. Look at the lovely tiled floor in front of the fireplace. So this is the chapel, and interestingly this statue here is actually by Damien Hirst, a modern artist, and that's actually silver plated in gold. And the ceiling again is by Louis Laguerre. And at the opposite end we've got a chapel gallery up there. And I believe these are the state rooms now. So these are going to be some of the poshest rooms. And these have actually had royalty stay in them. These thrones here were given to the 4th Duke of Devonshire by George III and Queen Charlotte. There's a fair bit of Delftware in here. And this is the state bedchamber. Now we'll go back through the painted hall and then up the great stairs. fountain inside up here. And there's a little courtyard in the centre. I think this statue here is Mercury. And you see that quite a bit around country houses. Some lovely marble doorways and stuff. Very, very opulent. Let's continue on. Another ceiling with classical scenes. Another nice marble doorway. No expense spared. Look at this. Wow. Another nice stairway down there. We didn't come up that way. And then there's lighting from the top. This is where the wallpaper gets interesting. I think these are going to be the guest bedrooms now, and the wallpaper's Chinese and from between about 1790 and 1820. Very posh bed. Well, I believe this wallpaper is referred to as bird and branch for obvious reasons. I quite like it actually. You can just about see outside from here as well. So a different approach to wallpaper in this room. Right. Here's a painting of the estate, how it once looked before the gardens were redone and stuff. Some Delftware down here in the fireplace. Look at the size of these doorways up here. And the ceilings in this room are by Antonio Verio. This wallpaper in here is actually gilded leather.
1723 it's painted. So it's just painted on the door? Yeah, so that it's a real door, a functioning door. Yeah. The bottom 4 panels are wooden and 3D, and then from roughly the centre up it's flat. So the
Fantastic chandelier up here. An old elevator. Water heater control panel. Little balcony type thing, yeah. Those are the great stairs we went up earlier. Nice bronze here. This is interesting. This is a little sledge, and I think this was for one of the Duke's children, and apparently that used to get pulled by a goat. This looks like some kind of library. That looks like an even more fancy library. And obviously this looks like the dining room now. That's a lot of silver. A gorgeous gilded ceiling. Now we're coming up to quite a special sculpture gallery. I've definitely not seen a sculpture gallery at any other country house as good as this. Oh, look at this one. These are amazing. This is called Endymion, and this is one of the final pieces by Canova. This is Napoleon's Mother, again by Canova. And I think this is Napoleon. It looks like that's by Canova as well. This is Princess Pauline Borghese. This was by Thomas Campbell. And Thomas Campbell did a sculpture of the Earl of Shrewsbury that was at Alton Towers. And then there's these fantastic stone lions just at the exit of the gallery. Wow. And then exit through the gift shop, or what was the orangery. Right then, looks like the sun's come out and it's time to go and find some good stuff in the gardens, to find all the water features and stuff. You'll notice this place gets a lot of visitors, even international. Places like this and Blenheim Palace and Burley House and places like that get very popular with tourists. Up there is the cascade, but firstly I think I'm going to go to the Emperor Fountain. This long walk away from the house is called the Broad Walk. And you can see the spray from the fountain to my right. This, ladies and gentlemen, is called the Emperor Fountain. And as we walk down towards the fountain, you get a lovely view of this side of the house. Back to the dodgy old camcorder for a bit of zooming in.
Yeah.
Remember that fountain?
Oh yeah, that was super.
There's been a fountain in this position since the first Duke's time, but in the 1840s Joseph Paxton improved this fountain, and after that it has been known to reach heights of about 90 metres. The first Duke's garden here was created between 1684 and around 1707. And that garden featured numerous parterres cut into the slopes above the house, as well as many fountains, garden buildings and classical sculptures. And then the fourth Duke made great changes to the gardens between 1755 and 1764. He had parts of the local village pulled down so they were not visible from the house, and replaced the first Duke's formal gardens with a more natural look, designed by Capability Brown. And then, from around 1826 to around 1858, the 6th Duke of Devonshire transformed the house and gardens into mostly what we see today. His head gardener, Joseph Paxton, who was only 23 when he was first employed here, redesigned and enlarged the garden. And today, the garden's managed by a team of around 20 gardeners and many volunteers. And what have we got up here? I think we've got a pool of some sort, and in the background you can see there's quite an impressive rockery and stuff. See the gardeners hard at work, keeping it all looking good. And if you can hear me, this is called the ring pond. And if we look at these statues around the outside, these apparently used to be at Chiswick House. And coming away from the ring pond, we have this really impressive rock garden, and again this is the best one that I've ever seen. And this was produced by Joseph Paxton and his team of gardeners in the 1840s. And we'll just have a little walk around and have a look at some of these formations. You can imagine the amount of work to get all these rocks here and placed into the exact positions. Ooh. What is this? And there's a pool of water around here, and I believe this is called the Strid, as it resembles a stretch of water near Bolton Abbey apparently. And this is in the middle of the rock garden. Just look at it, it's immense. And you've got waterfalls running through here as well. Nice of the sun to come back out. About time, we've had nothing but rain for months and months. I think this might be called Wellington Rock, where this water's coming down from. and all that was constructed carefully to plan. And it goes on and on and on, as you can see. It's a major piece of work. Let's have a walk up to the top. There's that waterfall from the side. Very impressive. And through some gaps. Let's go up. And it just goes on and on. And this should be the top of the rock garden now. And that's that little pond we were at not long ago, in the middle. And then stretch of water to the left, that's the Strid next to the rock garden. And there's that waterfall to our left. From rock to house. And the next feature we're going to look at is one of the main garden features here at Chatsworth, and that is the cascade, which runs right down this hill. And unfortunately, at the moment, the water's not actually running down the cascade because it needs some repairs. But luckily, I came here about 7 years ago or something like that, and I managed to record a few video clips, so I will actually put them up in a second. And this dates back to the 1690s, although it has had some alterations since and slightly moved. And I remember when I came here last time, when the water was all running, and this grass here was really popular with families just chilling out and having picnics and stuff like that. It's really gorgeous. And if you remember my Durham Park video, you'll remember that I said they used to have a cascade at Durham Park at the top of a hill running down, but it's disappeared now, and it would have been pretty much exactly like this. This cascade was designed by Grillet, and he was a pupil of Le Notre, who designed the gardens at Versailles. Work on this cascade house here was completed in around 1711. And as you can see, water even runs down on the roof. And you might be able to see now there's actually a rainbow running through the water at the back. I don't know if it'll show up on the video. You can see the rainbow going through the water. And in the centre there, in the middle on the roof, there's a figure of a river god asleep. And then as we move down, you've got two dolphins facing downwards, spurting water out of the mouth. And we can actually go inside here and have a look from the top. Apparently it's a problem with broken rockwork that's causing it to not be operational at the moment, and they've got plans in place to repair it, so in the future it should be working again, hopefully. I'm not sure how long it's been out of commission actually. I'm guessing a couple of years or something maybe. I'm not sure. I just spoke to a couple of workers near the cascade, and they reckon it's not been flowing with water for about a year now. They think they've got to generate about £7 million to fix it, and I think they've had about £500,000 off the National Lottery Fund so far, but I think they're trying to get some off English Heritage as well, but it's a bit of a waiting game now. Now don't get too excited, but I think you're going to like this. Now this is called the Willow Tree Fountain, and as you can see it appears to be a willow tree, but it's actually a fountain and it's shooting water out of it. And I believe that's made of brass. And apparently, when Princess Victoria visited Chatsworth, later Queen Victoria, she really liked this feature. Now just down here next to the rock garden is a tunnel called the Coal Tunnel. And it's pretty dark, but I'm going to try and walk through it. And apparently this was used, I think, for transporting coal to and from the massive greenhouse that used to be here called the Stove. That's not here anymore, but the coal tunnel remains. So I'm going to see where we end up. Right. Interesting. It's where I've just come out of. Okay, so if you look down there, you can see a maze in the middle with a stone wall around the outside, a low stone wall. And that's where the Great Stove was before. So yeah, I'll put up a picture in a second of what the Great Stove used to look like. But you can see the outline here of where Joseph Paxton's Great Conservatory would have been here before it was demolished in the 1920s. So as I said, those low stone walls, they would have been the walls around the outside of his Great Conservatory here at Chatsworth. There you go, there's a model of the Great Conservatory, 1840 to 1920. So the Great Stove was demolished in 1920. And basically this was because during and after the First World War, it was hard for the family to get enough fuel and staff to keep it running. So eventually they got rid of it. But like I said earlier, Joseph Paxton, who designed this, then went on to design the Crystal Palace for the Great Exhibition of 1851 in Hyde Park. And then in more recent times, it's been turned into a maze, as you can see. And ironically, at this end of where the Great Stove used to be, they've still got a couple of more exotic trees. Alright, let's leave the maze area. Okay, I think this area is called the ravine down here. And look, we've got some bluebells here. Nice old iron bridge. I think that's why it's called the ravine. Now up on quite a high level, this is called the Grotto Pond. And basically that's because there's a grotto up there at the other end of the pond. So on the other side of the Grotto Pond we have the grotto up here. And this was built in 1798 for Georgiana, the wife of the 5th Duke. And just above it there's a little shelter type building, a little rustic shelter. So let's have a look at this grotto. And these grottos, they were quite popular in the 18th century. People used to attach shells to the roofs and all that type of thing. And have little shell houses, they used to call them. So you can see a nice view. As you can see, the actual grotto bit at the back there, we can't actually get access to that at the moment. Well, there's an interesting colourful statue in there for some reason. Here we go, so the grotto's down there, and then you've got some kind of rustic summer house above. Somewhere to relax. Bit of modern art randomly placed. What's this little thing here? Yeah, apparently that little stream with two little ponds at the end, it's called the trout stream and the spectacles. So I think it's basically because it looks like a pair of spectacles. You got one ring on each end and then the little stream in between. This is nice at the top of this hill. You got a cedar of Lebanon over to the right. Then as we come round, you can see the top of the Cascade house, and then beyond that the top of the house at the bottom. And then spinning round, I think because the Cascade's down there, I think we're going to have another big pond here, which I'm sure would have been built to supply water for the Cascade. And here it is. I'm not sure what this pond's called. I'm going to have a guess, it's called the Cascade Pond. Suppose that's for allowing water through to the Cascade. And like I was saying, all of those fountains and waterworks at a lower level in the garden, they're all gravity fed with water, so they wouldn't be able to operate without all these ponds at the top. Get the shaky camcorder out again. And you can see that avenue in the far distance on the hill as well. Just heading a bit lower now, and there's an interesting little garden seat down here. I'm not sure what it's called. And there's a modern art elephant outside the front of it, as you can see. This is quite nice. Cavender on the roof, or Cavendish family. Some Latin writing, if anyone knows what that says. Hidden up here, there's another little water feature, and that little garden seat that I was just at, I've just found out that's called Luttrell's Seat, and that's up there, and that was built in the 6th Duke's time. And then what's this here? Ah, so this is the kitchen garden. Nice little bit of statue up there. Number of glass houses here at the end of the kitchen garden. There's the car park down there, and then the stable block, and then the house beyond, and then the hills beyond that. And just up this path here, I think this is called the Jack Pond, but there's not a lot of water in there at the moment. Or I should say zero water. Some nice statuary around the bottom of the cascade and around these 2 large lawns down here next to the house. And these are called the Salisbury lawns. And basically when Capability Brown came along and remodelled the garden, he got rid of the formal terraces with their parterres and stuff like that, and he basically replaced them with these lawns. And like I say, these are called the Salisbury lawns now, and they just have statues around them and stuff. And just down here off the side of one of the lawns, this is the first Duke's greenhouse, and this was created in around 1698. And there's some interesting statuary down here on top of tall plinths or columns. Let's have a look. Right, let's say bye bye to the house and gardens for a while. But I think before I go home, I'm going to go up to that hunting tower on the top of that hill right up there. Hello matey, how you doing? Yeah, hello. You look like a fine horse. Yeah. Bye bye. Wow, look at these. These are very old steps. I think I'm almost at the top. That was a tough walk, but here we are at the hunting tower, otherwise known as the stand. And this was built by Bess of Hardwick in 1582 as a vantage point to watch the hunt in the deer park below, which is down there past the trees. And these cannons that are placed outside, these are from a ship that fought at Trafalgar in 1805. And I'm guessing you can probably rent this out to stay in for the weekend and whatnot. So unfortunately we can't go up there. But as you can see, before a bit of this tree growth here, you would have had fantastic views everywhere down there. So this has been Chatsworth, and I'm tired now. But there's a lot to see there. And it'll cost you almost £30 a ticket to get in. But honestly, it is worth it. And if you think about the people who have worked on this place, you got Capability Brown, you got Joseph Paxton, and then on the house you've got Wyatville and Talman. So yeah, thanks for watching as usual. I really appreciate it, and I shall see you next time.